Hey there, happy Thursday. We're live right here on the San Francisco 49ers Report. Hope you're all having a great day and a phenomenal week. My name is Chase Sr. Thanks for hopping on board and supporting the show. No matter where you are or how you're tuned in, we appreciate you for making today's show a part of your day. It might be the bye week for San Francisco, but the content never stops because we are a content engine here on the 49ers Report as we talk all things Niners every single day year round. Coming up here on the show, I'm going to go through some bye week changes that I want to see the Niners to make in addition to points of emphasis for the Niners. We'll take a look at the updated NFC playoff picture and how Niner fans got the best news possible during the bye week. And since the Niners don't have a game this week, let's do some draft talk. I know during our mailbags, a lot of you have asked me about some potential draft targets for San Francisco. We'll do that. And then speaking of the mailbag, we'll do a Q&A. Use the hashtag 49ers or send in a super chat. You can get those questions in right now. And if you want to be a part of the mailbag, just use the hashtag 49ers or send in a super chat, and we'll get those questions popped up. Always enjoy being able to open up the floor, talk Niners, and chop it up with all of you. Bill Kennedy getting us started with the $2 super chat. Believe it or not, I'm worried about the Tennessee Titans. Of course, when next week comes around, we'll do a full-blown preview for that game. I'm not too worried about it. The Niners are 2-score favorites right now against Tennessee, and obviously anything can happen any given week inside the NFL. The Rams this year, a team that a lot of people look at as a Super Bowl favorite, has lost as 8.5-point underdogs against the Niners in Week 5, and then last week lost as 10-point favorites against the Carolina Panthers. But with everything that the Niners know is on the line, with how hard the remaining schedule is going to be after that Titans game, with where San Francisco is in the playoff hunt, playoff picture, with this coaching staff, how the Niners are rolling right now, and with them having their bye week, I'm not too worried about Tennessee. They're a really bad football team. Spunky Guy, one of our biggest supporters here on the show, $5 super chat. Good day, Chip and Chase and the faithful from Virginia this week. All right, rocking and rolling with this from Virginia, Spunky Guy. Hope all is well. If anybody gets a super chat in, we'll pop those super chats up immediately. And if you do send in a super chat that includes a question, we'll get that included in our mailbag as well. 4 segments to get to here on today's live show. So we'll be live for an hour and change. And I'm ready to get it going. If you're ready to talk some Niners, you know how we do it here on this show. I want you to hit that thumbs up icon and like the video. My name is Chase Sr., producer Chip, making the whole show operate. He's on the ones and twos. As Spunky Guy said, he's in Virginia, but we have Niner fans rocking and rolling with us from every pocket of America and worldwide. Let's get the official show started right now. Here we go. What is up, everybody? Welcome into the show. You're watching the San Francisco 49ers Report. My name is Chase Sr., and as always, no matter where you are, how you're tuned in, thank you so much for making today's show a part of your day. Coming up here on the show today, bye week changes for the Niners and points of emphasis that I want to see the Niners pinpoint here during their bye week. San Francisco is rolling right now, 9-4. 3-game winning streak going into the bye week, then coming off of it, the Tennessee Titans, followed by a slate full of playoff-worthy games that are going to have a playoff-level intensity. So over the next several minutes, changes and things that the Niners can do to crush this stretch run and really emphasize during that bye week. But I do want to begin here. I want to know, how are you going to spend your bye week? You're going to have a stress-free weekend. You're not going to have to worry about a Niners game that might come down to the wire where we're all on pins and needles on the end of our seats. So let me know how you're going to spend that bye week. Always love chopping it up with all of you down in the comment section. All right, bye week change number 1. I want to see the Niners move Spencer Burford to left guard full-time. Over the last few weeks since he's come back and since Ben Bartch has come back, we've seen that left guard rotation. I don't want to see the Niners roll with a rotation any longer, and it can't be a Burford-Bartch rotation because in that Cleveland game, Bartch, who suffered from a lot of injuries throughout his career, suffered a Liz Frank injury to his foot, most likely going to be out for the rest of the year. The other injury coming out of that Browns game, Kyle Juszczyk with that ribs fracture. We'll see how he's holding up going into that Titans game, but obviously Juice is Mr. Tough. And Burford has had a lot of ups and downs throughout his Niners career. He pretty much started every game as a rookie. In 2023, obviously the infamous play in the Super Bowl where he didn't block Chris Jones, missed his assignment there. But let's give credit where credit is due. After missing some time, he's come back. He's played pretty well. And honestly, against Cleveland, who has a really good defensive line, I thought Burford popped on a couple of reps. And this season, in 212 total snaps, limited due to injury, but still a good sample size there, only has been penalized one time, has only given up one sack of Mac Jones or Brock Purdy, has only surrendered one quarterback hit, and hasn't given up too many pressures, 10 of them up until this point. So Burford full-time at that left guard spot. He played a little bit of tackle in college. The Niners tried to experiment with him at tackle in the preseason. He's too slow. He has to be an interior offensive lineman, and now he's got an opportunity to really prove that he can be a legitimate player at that guard spot for this stretch run for San Francisco. To topic number 2, point of emphasis number 2. This efficient offense must continue for the final month of the season. And during the Niners' 3-game winning streak, we've seen them really be efficient in a couple of key categories. As they've won these 3 games in a row, with Brock Purdy starting all of those games, they've been number 2 in third down conversion rate, number 4 in success rate, number 8 in expected points added per play. Now, some of the explosive plays downfield have been lacking, but the Niners have been a more efficient offense as they've gotten healthier here over the last few weeks. And so what Purdy has to do is try to tame that gunslinger voice in his head. Against Carolina, it got him. And obviously the timing was a little bit off on a couple of those throws, but he also made some mistakes and didn't put a lot of velocity behind the ball. I thought there was a step forward in that Cleveland game with him throwing the ball in bad weather, cold, wind, and I thought that he looked better as far as the velo, as far as the oomph on some of his passes, and he said that the toe is getting better every single week. And why it's so important for Purdy to tame that gunslinger voice in his head, which sometimes tempts him to want to play hero ball and take risks downfield, because this defense is a mediocre defense just because of all of the injuries and some of the personnel that they have there, even though they've been playing well over the last few weeks. The margin for error for this team, also due to a lack of talent, is pretty thin. And so from here on out, the Niners are capable of really contending or competing with anybody, in my opinion. Not if they make mistakes, though, especially on offense, which then makes the defense's job a lot harder. So San Francisco, with this sample size, the last 3 games, last 3 wins have shown they can be successful while efficient. Playing safe and efficient takes the pressure off of this defense, which, again, has been trending upward, making a lot of improvements, but when they go up against better offenses, obviously they're going to be taxed a little bit more. George Kittle, he's really started to come on as he's gotten healthier since his return, and I want to see the Niners keep George Kittle hot. Obviously, ever since Brock Purdy came into the league in 2022, Kittle's touchdown numbers have skyrocketed, and his production's been incredible, and he's played at an all-pro level, and I still think he's the best all-around tight end in the game. But coming off that hamstring injury, he was slow to produce for San Francisco. Now, he did make an impact outside of that, and it's been in the ground game because he's such a good blocker, and defenses have to account for him as a blocker and as a pass catcher. But as far as his receiving repertoire, it's gotten better and it's increased here of late. So he comes back against Atlanta after he had missed all that time with that hamstring injury from the injury that he suffered in week 1, and he was only targeted 2 times, had 0 catches. But in that game, the Niners ran it 39 times, and it was their most successful running performance to date. And I think that was a big reason, or George Kittle's return, was a big reason why the Niners were able to find success on the ground, really for the first time all season. Against Houston, with Mac Jones still at quarterback. Remember Mac threw that tight window throw and threw it up for grabs for Kittle, and somehow he came down with it. He had 4 catches for 43 yards and that touchdown in that game. Against the Giants, Mac Jones still in, 4 targets, 4 catches, 32 yards, no touchdowns. And then with Mac again against the Rams, he was targeted 9 times, had 9 catches on those 9 targets, 84 yards and a touchdown. Purdy comes back in Arizona, and that's when Kittle has really started to take a leap on top of that Rams game with this receiving production. 6 targets, 6 catches, 67 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Against Carolina, 10 targets, 6 grabs, 78 yards. And then against Cleveland, 5 targets, 4 catches, 67 yards, including that 33-yard bomb down the field right before halftime. A huge play. So as he's gotten healthier, he's gotten more involved in the pass game. And obviously, he continues to build that rapport with Brock Purdy. And even though he missed all that time, he's still having a very highly productive season. In 8 games, he has 37 catches, 396 yards, and 5 touchdowns. Now, coming up next here, we're going to start to look ahead bye week after the bye week with this ball club. And you look at this Niners remaining schedule here, this is going to be a blast, ladies and gentlemen, for the final 4 games and now 5 weeks of the season. Bye week in week 14 for San Francisco. They play the Titans at Levi's Stadium in week 15, on the road against the Colts on Monday Night Football, at home against the Bears on Sunday Night Football, and then they host the Seahawks in a game that could be huge to round out the regular season. Colts, playoff team. Bears, playoff team. Seahawks, playoff team. And so with that, I ask you this. What will the Niners' record be the last 4 games of the 2025 campaign? Again, Titans, Colts, Bears, Seahawks. Sound off with what you think down below. Our sponsor for today's San Francisco 49ers Report, we are brought to you by Prize Picks, the #1 fantasy sports app in the game. Join the millions of users, sign up today, and you won't regret it. Prize Picks is simple to play. You just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections, and you could really cash in big time. And it's made game days so much more fun for me. In addition to producer Chip, this is something that we always enjoy doing for every single Niners game. And look, you think about where we are right now, beginning of December. It's the holiday season, the best time of year for sports, bowl games, basketball matchups, playoff pushes. It's all happening at once. And while you and I are out here making decisions every day, what gifts to buy, what to eat, which games to watch, there's one place where it feels good to be right, and that is Prize Picks. You can get your picks in less than 60 seconds. They have a new feature. Prize Picks now has early payouts. If your lineup gets off to a hot start, you may now have the option to cash out of those winnings before the game even finishes. And we have a 3-pick power play. Buffalo, Cincinnati, James Cook, more on the 99.5 rushing yards. Joe Burrow more on the 253.5 passing yards. And then Emeka Egbuka, the rookie, having a really good season out of Ohio State, more than 60.5 receiving yards. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use the code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. All right, more bye week changes here for San Francisco. This defense needs to keep improving for the Niners. And during this 3-game winning streak, the offense has done what I said it needed to do. Carry the load for this football team. Let the defense catch up, because there were going to be some blemishes and growing pains for this Niners defense. But we've seen them grow up before our very eyes, and Robert Saleh has done a hell of a job. I mean, all season long, when you're without Nick Bosa and Fred Warner, the likes of those players who are all-time legends for the Niners and all-time greats, Saleh's made chicken salad out of chicken shit. Points given up in this 3-game winning streak, 22 against Arizona, 9 against Carolina, 8 against Cleveland. And don't hit me with it's an easy schedule. There are no cupcake games in the NFL. And for the Niners to do that with the lack of personnel that they have, it makes it more impressive in my opinion. A key, too, is that the Niners have forced 7 turnovers during this 3-game winning streak. And they've been better against the run since that Rams loss when they couldn't stop the run. And when that happens, you lose control of the game. 36 yards given up on the ground against Arizona, 69 against Carolina, 138 against Cleveland, but that's all that Cleveland could do, run the football, because they couldn't throw it at all. And here's a defensive guide to success. Things of emphasis for the Niners that they can really point to here going into the bye week and out of it for the final 4 games. Hopefully, Cleveland Ferrell and Keion White can continue to provide a really solid pass rush for San Francisco. And what I had said when the Niners didn't make a move at the NFL trade deadline, right, is that everybody else is going to have to elevate their games. Well, we've seen that from Ferrell. We've seen that from White. What's also been key is that the back-end play early in the year was really lacking. This safety play has been improved during this 3-game winning streak as well, led by Ji'Ayir Brown and Malik Mustafa, who I think have been more disciplined players over the last couple of weeks. I want to see Robert Saleh continue to get creative with timely blitzes, and understand sometimes it's going to burn you, but Saleh's creativeness and creativity with some of his blitz calls, how he devises them, how he draws them up, it's led to the Niners being able to generate a little bit more pressure over these last 3 games. San Francisco pretty much has to pitch a perfect game nearly on defense. Part of that, continuing to force turnovers. And all year, this Niners defense has given up yards, but they've buckled down inside the red zone. And that, to me, is the beauty of having an elite defensive play caller and game planner, that they give up long drives at times and they'll give up yards, but they're not giving up a bunch of points. The ultimate bend but do not break type of defense. And then lastly, for my bye week changes and points of emphasis here, the special teams for the Niners needs to stay productive. And all season long, Brant Boyer has done a good job of making adjustments. I mean, if you think about it, it's not just Nick Bosa and Fred Warner who have been hurt this year. The Niners have been one of the most off-injured teams in the NFL. And so Brant Boyer has had to make some changes with his personnel on special teams. But this special teams unit, which has killed this team in previous years, has really boosted this team since that Week 4 loss against Jacksonville. And John Lynch deserves a lot of credit for that Sky Moore acquisition. It's ended up being a very underrated move for San Francisco. And you think about some of the splash plays that he's had, obviously the 2 big ones that come to mind, the 98-yard kickoff return to start the game against Arizona. Last week, the 66-yard punt return. So he's doing it as a return man, returning kicks and punts. And when you can flip the field or give your offense a short field, it's huge. And that's why over the last few years, I kept pounding the table saying, Kyle, I know you love offense, but you need to put more of an emphasis on special teams. And we've seen the benefits of that this year. And then at the field goal kicker spot, the Niners, thankfully, finally moved off of Jake Moody. Well, Eddie Pinheiro went 22 of 22 prior to his injury, and Matt Gay, his replacement in the last 2 games, also hasn't missed. So the Niners this year, outside of Jake Moody, have not missed a field goal. Knock on wood. Hopefully I didn't jinx them there. And since Week 4, that was the game against Jacksonville, where the Niners gave up that 87-yard punt return for a touchdown to Parker Washington, which was a pretty ugly special teams breakdown. The Niners have only given up 1 punt return of 15-plus yards and only 1 kickoff return of 35-plus yards. Ladies and gentlemen, that'll play. You know it also plays? If you give me a follow on X, Instagram, and TikTok, and if you give me some more plays on all the free content I give you, I'd certainly appreciate that. I'm always talking Niners here on YouTube. I'm giving you additional content on my social media pages. Just launched that TikTok page 2 weekends ago. We're closing in on 1,000 followers already. Clean Siege, or is it Clan Siege 20, with the $2 super chat. Would you throw hands with Grant Cohn? No, I've been on Grant's show multiple times. I have no issues with Grant. I support his content. I don't know if he said anything bad about me recently, which is what led to you saying that, but I have respect for Grant. I think that him and I are 2 of the OGs among 49er YouTubers. We've been around for a little while as content creators covering the Niners, and that's why him and I believe, have the 2 biggest Niners YouTube channels. But I've run into him at the Super Bowl. I've spoken with him at the NFL Combine. No need to throw hands with him. I know that he's not for everybody, but I respect his work and I support his work. All right, speaking of our mailbag, If you want to get involved and get your questions answered, use the hashtag 49ers or send in a super chat. That's hashtag 49ers or send in a super chat. And look, there are so many talented content creators out there who talk about the Niners. And that's why every time you decide to hang out here with us, I'm grateful, I'm thankful. And that's why I always say, thanks to all of the real ones for continuing to support the show. Spunky Guy saying, I only watch this Niners YouTube channel. We're not worthy. We're not worthy, but we appreciate you. More than 400 people hanging out, 119 likes. Be sure to hit that thumbs up icon, like the video. When we get more likes, more people discover the stream, more people come in here, and we have more fun. Let's keep it rolling. Let's get to segment number 2. Latest look at the Niners playoff picture. This is really fascinating stuff. And the Niners pretty much got the best news that they could have gotten during the bye week, and we're getting into that right now. This is the San Francisco 49ers Report. I'm your host, Chase Sr. Thanks for hanging out, supporting the channel, and watching today's show. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Hit that thumbs up icon as well if you want to support this video and support what I do in general as we talk about the Niners every single day, year-round. Coming up here over the course of the next several minutes, we're going to take a look at the latest Niners playoff picture. San Francisco pretty much got the best news possible during the bye week. What do I mean by that? It's coming up here in just a bit. Let's set the table by first taking a look at the NFC playoff picture going into Week 14. Niners have a bye week that's in Week 14, which is so late. I can't recall the Niners having a bye week this late in a really long time, maybe ever. Kyle Shanahan even said, I haven't been in a situation like this my entire coaching career. But the Niners are sitting pretty right now. They've won 3 games in a row. They're 9-4 on the year. With all of the adversity they've had to face and deal with, it's incredible to me that San Francisco, even though they've had an easier schedule, is still 9-4, and they still have an opportunity to potentially get the number 1 seed in the NFC. What a wild and wacky year across the NFL. And the Chicago Bears, it's part of the crazy year that we've had here in 2025. The number 1 seed in the NFC at 9-3 because the Rams lost as 10-point favorites to the Panthers last Sunday. They dropped down to the number 2 seed. Philadelphia Eagles have lost 2 games in a row. They're 8-4, the 3 spot there, leading the NFC East over the Dallas Cowboys, who are surging. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the 4 seed at 7-5. Seattle Seahawks, 5 seed at 9-3. Packers, 6 seed at 8-3-1. And the Niners, they might have more wins than the Packers, but the Packers are ahead of them because of winning percentage, and San Francisco is 9-4. I can't really recall 3 wildcard teams having that good of a record going into Week 14. Usually those types of teams with that type of record, they're leading their divisions. But the NFC is wide open, which is interesting because it might be wide open. There's not a clear favorite, yet a lot of these teams have really good records. Of note, I'm recording this on Thursday. There is a Thursday night football game, which is massive, between the Detroit Lions and the Dallas Cowboys. Regardless of who wins that game, it doesn't impact the top 7 seeds. But if their records change by the time that you watch this video, obviously, Detroit 7-5, Dallas 6-5-1, winners of 3 straight games going into Thursday night. That is why. And you take a gander at the Niners' remaining schedule. Bye week in Week 14, as noted. They come out of the bye. They will host the Tennessee Titans at Levi's Stadium. You got to win that game. And the Niners are already massive favorites against Tennessee, one of the worst teams in the NFL. They'll have a top 3 pick in the NFL draft. Then things start to get intriguing, interesting, fascinating, exciting, exhilarating. The final 3 games for San Francisco, as good as it gets. And when the NFL schedule makers put together this schedule, they devised a great ending of the year for San Francisco as far as intrigue, because all of these games are literally going to have playoff implications, and all of these games are going to have a playoff feel. The Colts are 8-4, and going into Week 14, they are the number 5 seed, I believe, in the AFC. And they've been reeling a little bit of late as Daniel Jones has come back to life. So they badly need a win on Monday Night Football. The Chicago Bears, as of right now, the number 1 seed. But with the loss, they could drop down, and the Niners could surpass them this weekend. Oh, how quickly things could change. And then the division. the number 1 seed, a high seed, the opportunity to have a playoff game in the wild card round, have a bye week in the wild card round, could come down realistically to this Week 18 game between the Niners and the Seahawks at Levi's Stadium. And obviously Seattle looking for revenge because the Niners walked into their trap and took over their trap in Week 1 to start the 2025 campaign. And how about this? I talked about this earlier this week, but not everybody watches every single video, although I highly encourage you to do that because we're pumping out great content here. How about this? The Niners have a better chance of getting the number 1 seed than they do of missing the NFL playoffs. And did you know that the Niners could jump from the number 7 seed to the number 2 seed this weekend without even having to play a game? Here's how. There are 3 games that we're really going to be focusing in on this weekend, which I can't wait, as we don't have to do a watch party on Sunday. So I'll be sitting on my couch, cup of coffee in the morning after a workout. I'll watch a pregame show, and then for the rest of the day, I'm planting my ass on that couch, and I am watching NFL football from the start of the day all the way through Sunday Night Football. And I cannot wait. Game number 1 that we'll be looking at here. Chicago Bears on the road against the Green Bay Packers. Lambeau Field in December between 2 teams vying potentially for the number 1 seed, 2 teams vying for the NFC North crown. The intensity of this game between 2 teams that hate each other is going to be epic. Now, the Packers, surprisingly, 6.5-point favorites. I think the Bears are getting disrespected in this game, just like I thought they got disrespected last week when they were 7-point underdogs against the Eagles. I smashed Chicago +7. The over-under, 44.5. It's going to be cold, and it's going to be a classic NFC North bout. The second game that matters for San Francisco this weekend is 1 p.m. Eastern on Sunday. So the early slate for everybody out there. The Seahawks on the road against Atlanta. Seattle, 7-point favorites over-under at 44.5. And then the last one is also in that afternoon slot. Rams on the road against the Arizona Cardinals. Anything can happen in a divisional game. The Niners, yes, beat LA once, beat the Cardinals twice. Obviously, Arizona isn't a great team, and they're 8-point dogs in this game. But the Rams losses 8.5-point favorites against the Niners earlier this year. Last week, they lost against Carolina as 10-point favorites. So a lot of people will say there's no way that the chips are going to fall in the Niners' favor. You don't know that. That's why there is that saying, any given Sunday, because the NFL is so competitive and a majority of games are decided by 1 score or less. And Arizona this year, they haven't won in a couple of months. They are a pesky team that has been very competitive this season. And so, how could the Niners go from the 7 seed to the 2 seed? Bears-Packers scenario number 1. If the Bears beat the Packers, the Niners move up to the number 6 seed and they pass Green Bay. Green Bay would then fall to the 7 seed. Bears-Packers scenario numero 2. If the Packers beat the Bears, the Niners move up to the number 6 seed and they pass Chicago. Remember what I said earlier? Chicago could go from the number 1 seed to the 7 seed on the span of 1 weekend. It's nuts. Bears-Packers scenario number 3. If the Bears and Packers tie, the Niners jump the Packers based on NFC record. And so they would move up to the number 6 seed. And regardless of what happens between the Bears and the Packers, win, loss, or tie for either team, the Niners will jump one of those teams in the NFC North. Seahawks-Falcons scenario. If the Seahawks lose to the Falcons, the Niners can jump up from the 7 seed, the final wildcard spot, to the first wildcard position to the number 5 seed. Rams-Cardinals scenario here. If the Rams lose to Arizona, the Niners advance to the number 5 seed. And how about this? The wild, wild west. If the Seahawks and the Rams lose, the Niners jump up all the way to the number 2 seed. And I know a lot of people are going to say, Chase, that is impossible. We have seen crazier things happen, and I'm telling you right now, it is possible because of what we saw last Sunday. Who thought that the Rams were going to lose to the Panthers? The Panthers were drubbed by the San Francisco 49ers on Monday Night Football. They come back home and they win by 3, and they forced 2 interceptions of Matthew Stafford, including a pick 6. And it required those types of splash plays for the Panthers to win in a game that had 5 different lead changes. But I'm telling you, some of these things could go in the Niners' favor this weekend. And so one more time, you look at the NFC playoff picture. The teams ahead of San Francisco here: Bears, Rams, Eagles, Bucks, Seahawks, Packers. Coming up next, a look at the remaining schedules for those teams who are in front of San Francisco and what the Niners might have to do in order to jump some of those teams. But first, let's get to our sponsor. Our friends at Brunt, making today's San Francisco 49ers report possible. To the real ones who watch every single episode, you've heard me talk about Brunt work boots. They're my favorite. They're comfortable. They're durable. They're built to last. And the bad things about bad boots, they can make long days even harder and longer, more arduous. But with Brunt, that is not the case. And look, with the holiday season here, you have to take advantage of this deal that Brunt has to offer. And I know a lot of you will say, Chase, you talk about football for a living. You're in front of the camera on a microphone. You probably wear makeup. I don't, but I like getting gritty. I'm a bring your lunch pail to work type of guy, and that's why I love Brunt Workwear. Choosing work boots used to mean sacrificing comfort or durability. If they felt good, they didn't last. And if they lasted, they wrecked your feet. Brunt thought that was BS, so they built tough boots that feel great from day one. No break-in, no sore feet, because people out there doing the real work shouldn't have to choose between comfort or durability. Brunt stands behind what they make. You can wear these boots to work, and if they're not right for you, you send them back. It's a no-risk gift. The boots that I have that I just showed you, the Marin work boots, these Brunt boots were comfortable right out of the box. Most other boots require a significant break-in, and that period can take a really long time, not with Brunt. But Brunt also isn't just about work boots. They offer a full range of high-performance gear built for tough jobs, from heavy-duty work pants to weather-resistant jackets. They have it all. Brunt designs durable, reliable workwear to keep you protected, productive, and comfortable in any condition. With temperatures dropping and the holidays coming up, it's time to treat yourself or somebody else, a hardworking man in your life maybe, to real comfort. Skip the throwaway gifts. Get something built to last. Brunt Workwear. Our listeners, our viewers, get $10 off their entire order when you use the code CHAT at checkout. That's bruntworkwear.com/chat. Use that code CHAT. Order today and let them know you heard about them right here on the show. All right. I showed you the NFC playoff picture just moments ago, and I queued this up that we are going to take a gander at the teams in front of the Niners and their remaining schedules. San Francisco, no doubt, has a pretty hard remaining schedule. Titans, at Colts, home against Bears, home against Seattle. It's not tougher than the Chicago Bears remaining schedule. They have to play the Packers 2 times in 3 weeks. On the road at Lambeau in Week 14, at home against the Packers on Saturday in Week 16, and in between that, a home game against Cleveland. After that stretch, the Bears go on the road to play the Niners. This game could determine so much inside the NFC, and then the Bears round out with the Lions, and that could be a winner-go-home game. The Rams remaining schedule. Kind of easy, but that's what I had said going into that Panthers game, and they lost. On the road against the Cardinals. They do get the Lions at home, on the road against Seattle. You talk about a big game there. Might have to do a watch party for that right here on the San Francisco 49ers report. Week 17, Rams on the road against the Falcons on Monday night. NFL, can we please flex that game out of there? Nobody needs to watch Atlanta. Dog shit team on Monday night. And then the Rams round out with the Cardinals in Week 18. The Eagles' remaining schedule. Keep in mind, they've lost 2 games in a row. They will be on the road to play the Chargers on Monday Night Football. They will not have Jalen Carter. We'll see if Justin Herbert plays for L.A. They have the Raiders at home. They're on the road against the Commanders on Saturday. Jaden Daniels, full participant as of this recording on Thursday, and so he's probably going to be back unless he gets injured again. Eagles have to go on the road to play the Buffalo Bills. Bills have a lot to fight and play for, and then the Eagles get the Commanders again. Commanders would love to play spoiler and mess up the Eagles' season, especially after the Birds put up 55 points on them in the NFC Championship game last year. The Buccaneers' remaining schedule. Mike Evans might be able to return after breaking his collarbone. Home against the Saints, home against the Falcons on Thursday Night Football. Why are we putting Atlanta in these primetime spots? My gosh, me and Chip are laughing over here. On the road against Carolina, on the road against the Dolphins, home against Carolina. 2 times against the Panthers in 3 weeks. That could determine the NFC South victor. The Seahawks' remaining schedule. At Falcons, they get the Colts at home, the Rams at home, and then they round out on the road against Carolina. That's probably the longest flight, one of the longest flights in the NFL. I guess Seattle to Miami would be the longest, but that's a long flight. Seattle to Carolina, Pacific Northwest to the East Coast, and then Seahawks round out with the Niners on the road at Levi Stadium. Juices are going to be flowing in that game. And then the Packers' remaining schedule. Week 14, Bears at home, on the road against the Broncos, on the road against the Bears, short week as well. They play the Ravens at home, and then on the road against the Vikings. So of all those teams, I would say Chicago and Green Bay have the 2 hardest schedules, and they're both vying for that NFC North crown. So predict it here for me. What seed will the Niners get once the playoffs come around? Again, they have a better chance of getting the number 1 seed than they do of missing the playoffs. As always, join the conversation down in the comment section. Thanks to all of the real ones who are still watching. And if that's you, type real one right now. Another super chat coming in from Mondo Listraka. Almost 500 people watching. Let's get the stream up to 200 likes. We're at 180 right now. Continue to hit that thumbs up icon, like the video. Mondo will also pop up that super chat. Segment number 3 coming up here in just a moment. Who wants to take a look at some Niners draft targets? If you want to, I want you to type me. Spunky Guy, type in real one. Eastside Booski, type in real one. Come Undone, type in real one. Greg Smith, Chino, all type in real one. Here's Mondo. $2 super chat. Let's go Niners. You already know. And then last call. If you want to get a question in for our mailbag, use the hashtag 49ers. Send in a super chat because we'll be doing that mailbag after segment number 3. We got questions in there, Chip?
We got Greg Smith asking a draft question as well. So good stuff there.
Attaboy.
We got Mahol Patel with a question in there. Another draft question.
Okay.
Niner Faithful and Ali getting questions in there.
All right.
And then Chua as well. So 5 questions so far, plus I think Bill's super chat could fit in there. So
for sure.
Some room left if you wanted to get a question in. Last chance.
Yeah. Hashtag 49ers. Send in a super chat. I see my guy Isaac Santi tuned into the show as well. That's hashtag 49ers or send in a super chat. Let's try to get 5 more in there at least so that we can get around 10 questions in to answer for that mailbag. All right. Let's keep it rolling here, and we're 3 likes away from 200. Appreciate y'all. Hit that thumbs up icon, like the video if you haven't already done so. We're going to take a look at some Niners draft targets, all from Mel Kiper's big board, which he just released recently as top 25 players for the 2026 NFL Draft. Let's dive into that right now. It might be the bye week for the San Francisco 49ers, but we don't sleep, and the coverage does not stop. There's always something to talk about with the Niners, and that's what we're doing here today. Who wants to talk some Niners draft targets? Let's dive in. We're taking a look at some Niners draft targets, players who San Francisco could be enticed by and pinpoint in April's 2026 NFL Draft, all based on Mel Kiper's big board. Mel Kiper been doing it for decades as ESPN's lead NFL draft analyst. And he released his top 25 big board recently. And so I want to take a look at players who make the most sense for San Francisco here. And just for the purpose of this outline and what we're accomplishing here on the show, let's begin with this. Taking a look at the Niners 2026 draft needs, and this is as of right now going into the bye week. I think offensive line is a huge need for San Francisco. Trent Williams is 37 years old. And at left guard, you don't really have a long-term option there who's currently on the roster. At center, Jake Brendel is an older player, and I think that you could stand for an upgrade there. Now, the right side of the offensive line seems to be set with Dominic Pooney. He'll be going into year 3 of his rookie contract, and Colton McKivitz, who the Niners signed to that 3-year, $45 million extension. But on that left side, major question marks for the Niners. Although Trent Williams, I think he still has some gas left in the tank because after a slow start to the year, he started to play a lot better of late, the number 2 highest graded offensive tackle in football. Wide receiver is a big need for the Niners because I think San Francisco is going to move off of Brandon Ayuk, and Jauan Jennings is going to be a free agent. Now, if the Niners move off of Ayuk, obviously that clears up about $25 million in cap room for next year. Some of that could be allocated to Jauan Jennings. I wouldn't hate that. Along the defensive line, we don't know when Nick Bosa or Mykel Williams will be with this team next year. And the Niners lack some horses up front. And I like how some players have come on. Keon White's going to be under contract next year. I hope the Niners keep Cleveland Ferrell around as a depth piece because he's only been a good player in his career with San Francisco. But you need some more dogs up front, and this draft class shaping up to be a good one along the defensive line. At linebacker, outside of Fred Warner, you have question marks there. I like the future of Nick Martin, but he can't even get on the field right now. And then I would look at safety as a potential need for the Niners. Malik Mustafa will be going into year 3 of his rookie contract, but Ji'Ayir Brown will be entering the final year of his rookie contract. And so you could bring in a developmental player or shoot a player who could potentially start right away. And obviously some of these players aren't going to be available for when the Niners pick comes around, but we also don't know where the Niners are going to be picking for April's NFL draft. So let's begin with a player who fits a need for the Niners. That's at wide receiver. Jordan Tyson out of Arizona State. Used to play at Colorado under Shedeur Sanders and with Deion Sanders. And he has really good size at the wide receiver spot. 6'2", 200 pounds. He's from Allen, Texas. Kyler Murray played his high school football at Allen. Never lost a high school start. One of the best high school athletes in the history of high school sports. Also was a terrific baseball player. Was a top 5 overall pick. And this year, Tyson, with Sam Levitt throwing him the pill, 61 catches, 711 yards, 8 touchdowns. Here's what Mel Kiper said about Tyson. The Colorado transfer has teamed up with quarterback Sam Levitt to light up defenses for 2 years now. Tyson's superpower is being open even when it looks like he's completely blanketed. It makes him essentially uncoverable in the red zone. He wins on 50-50 balls and outmuscles defensive backs. Tyson recently returned from a hamstring injury, which kept him out 3 games. I think the 40 time for Tyson will determine a lot for where he goes on the draft board. Carnell Tate, wide receiver out of Ohio State. I know his teammate, Jeremiah Smith, is the one who gets all the praise, but Carnell Tate has kind of flipped that on its head with a really good year this year, and I like his prospects of being an excellent player at the NFL level. 44 catches for 793 yards and 8 touchdowns. Been dealing with the lower body injury of late, but he did play against Michigan. He can run, and he has size, making plays downfield. Here's what Kiper said about Tate. Tate has produced big plays on a regular basis, averaging 18.2 yards per catch this season. He is a precise route runner, has great hands, and displays outstanding body control. He'll also happily block for ball carriers, which NFL coaches love to see. Tate has a lower body injury and has missed some time. Kyle Shanahan loves wide receivers who can block. He'll be watching some Carnell Tate film in the lead up to the draft. Mekhi Lemon, another wide receiver, as this is shaping up to be a pretty good wide receiver draft. He plays his college football at USC, and I think Lincoln Riley's done a pretty good job of turning that USC program around, although they haven't won many big games this year outside of beating ranked Illinois. 79 catches, 1,100 yards, and 11 touchdowns. Mekhi Lemon can really move, and he's tough as nails. Kiper with the scouting report on him. This kid is a warrior who plays with passion. I'd want Lemon on my roster. He snatches the ball away from his body in an attacking manner, then runs with a fierce approach after the catch. He is one of my favorite players in the class, and he currently ranks 3rd in the nation in receiving yards. Urban Meyer said this guy, or no, it was Nick Saban who said this guy has been one of the best players he's seen in college football this year. I'd made some comps to Jackson Smith-Njigba because he's primarily a slot guy. Francis Muigawa I think I got that right. This is an offensive tackle from Miami who some NFL people think might have to play along the interior. But what I like about him, his traits of being a mauler, and he's been very steady for the Miami Hurricanes this year. And we'll see if Miami gets into the college football playoff. They're on the bubble right now. Kuiper on him. He's a true mauler. He's fun to watch for the way he just destroys pass rushers at the point of attack. He has more than 2,300 snaps at right tackle and has the pass protection skill to stick there. But he could absolutely slide inside and become a Pro Bowl caliber guard at the next level. He's allowed 1 sack and blown only 9 run blocks since the start of the year. One of my favorite players in this draft class is Kenyon Sadiq, the tight end out of Oregon. This is a tight end who can do it all. He runs really well. He has great feet. He moves extremely well. He's physical. He can absorb contact. And he's a physical blocker and enjoys blocking. And if the Niners ever wanted to get another weapon and run some more 2 tight end sets, they've struggled with some of the backup tight ends of late. Kenyon Sadiq could be that guy, and the heir apparent to George Kittle. 6'3", 245, 40 catches for 490 yards. He's a good red zone threat. 8 touchdowns for Oregon this year under Dan Lanning. Kuiper on him. Sadiq is loaded with physical traits. He has the explosion to hurdle defenders in the open field. He has the vision and the speed to cause conflict after the catch, with almost half his 2025 yardage coming after the ball is in his hands. We know that Kyle Shanahan loves Yak Kings, and he's nearly impossible to match against because of his quickness and his size. Sadiq has been consistent this season, and he could be the first tight end off the board. He might be everything that we hoped Kyle Pitts would be, but more physical and more of a willing blocker. To the second phase of 5 players here, and let's go on defense here. David Bailey, the outside linebacker with Texas Tech, 6'3", 250 pounds. And for the pass rusher spot, that might be a little bit small for San Francisco because they like thicker defensive ends who can prioritize setting the edge and guys who can play on the inside too. But with the modern landscape of the NFL, I'd love to see San Francisco get some more speed guys off the edge. 36 tackles, 16 TFLs, 12 sacks, and 62 pressures this year for one of the best teams in the country. Kuiper on Bailey. Transfer from Stanford. Niners love Stanford players. They have some ties there. John Lynch played there. Bailey gets after the quarterback. He had 14.5 sacks over 3 years for the Cardinal, and he has notably become more of a finisher this year. His 21.5% pressure rate, second in the nation, and he's up to 12.5 sacks in 11 games with the Red Raiders, unlocking another level of his game. One of my other favorite players in this draft class is Caleb Downs, a safety out of Ohio State. He's a player who can make an impact at all 3 levels of the field. I mean, when you watch him play, he's all over the field for Matt Patricia's defense. 6 feet, 205, good size there. He's from Georgia, 51 tackles, 5 TFLs, 2 picks, and 6 run stops. So he can mix it up around the line of scrimmage, and he's good on that back end. Kuiper on Downs, the brother of NFL receiver Josh Downs, and the son of former NFL running back Gary Downs. So you got to love the NFL bloodlines there. He's basically an extension of the defensive coordinator. His football knowledge shows in his play. It's obvious when you watch him in the Ohio State defense, but what really impressed me is how well he picked up Nick Saban's system as a 2023 freshman at Alabama before transferring. He diagnoses quickly thanks to excellent pre-snap instincts, and that allows him to play faster than his straight line speed might suggest. Plus, Downs is solid in coverage, and he is a very reliable open field tackler. If Robert Saleh were to hang around, Caleb Downs could be a terrific player for him. If the Niners want to bulk up along the interior defensive line again, I know they did it with Alfred Collins and CJ West, but you need some more depth there. Peter Woods could be an option. Kevin Givens, Jordan Elliott, older players. Woods, 6'3", 310, 30 tackles, 2 TFLs, 2 sacks, and 9 pressures. I heard producer Chip, who went to Clemson, talking about Peter Woods, and he's kind of had a down year a little bit in 2025, but he's still going to be high on some draft boards for a lot of teams. Woods hasn't been elite in 2025, so Kuiper echoing what Chip said, but the skill set is exactly what the NFL teams covet. He just needs to finish strong over the second half of the season in the pros. Woods would fit nicely at 3 technique, Though he has the versatility to move around on a defensive front, he plays on the inside the majority of the time, but he can also be disruptive off the edge. So again, the Niners like that type of positional versatility from their defensive linemen. His strength will intrigue a lot of NFL teams no matter where he lines up. Back to the offensive line here, an offensive tackle. I know a viewer had asked me about this player a little while ago, but Spencer Fano, the offensive tackle out of Utah, 11 starts this year for the Utes, 0 sacks allowed. He stayed in state to play his college ball. He's from Spanish Fork, Utah, 6'6", 308. I'd like to see him bulk up a little bit. He's kind of in that build of a Mike McGlinchey, a very slender offensive tackle. Started 12 games at left tackle in 2023 before moving to the right side in 2024. He started 23 games there over the last 2 years, working opposite another highly regarded bookend in Caleb Lemieux. Fano does a great job of keeping his big frame between the pass rusher and his quarterback. He's technically sound and shows good punch to compensate for his lack of ideal arm length. So not great arm length, but I do like the tackle versatility playing at right tackle and at left tackle. Ruben Bain Jr., another pass rusher who we're talking about here on today's show out of Miami. Now, this is a player who, from a size standpoint, would fit what the Niners like at defensive end because he's bigger. He's not one of those slight 245 to 250-pound defensive ends and outside linebackers. If you're talking 3-4, which obviously the Niners run a 4-3, Ruben Bain is 6'3", 270. 35 tackles, 6 TFLs, 4 sacks, and 45 pressures this year. Kuiper on Bain. Bain is powerful, has really strong hands, kind of like Mykel Williams. Routinely gets the best of some very good offensive tackles, often with his dominant rip move, and he knows every trick in the book in getting home to the quarterback, unlike Mykel Williams. Bain also shows speed and bend off the edge. He takes good angles, plus he can hold the edge against the run, and he can get off blocks and chase down ball carriers. His tape is just filled with disruption, but even with all those A-level traits, it's actually Bain's hustle that really stands out to me. He never takes a play off and fires at the ball on every play. That literally sounds like a prototypical Chris Kocurek, Robert Saleh, John Lynch, Kyle Shanahan type of defensive end. So with that, I ask you this. What position do you want the Niners to target? Join the conversation down in the comment section and share your ball knowledge with me. Let's get to our sponsor. Today's 49ers Report brought to you by Prize Picks. It's the holiday season, December in full swing. It's the best time of the year for sports. Bowl games, basketball matchups, playoff pushes. It's all happening at once. And while you and I are out here making decisions every day, what gifts to buy, what to eat, which games should I watch, there is one place where it feels good to be right. That place is Prize Picks. New feature alert, Prize Picks now has early payouts. If your lineup gets off to a hot start, you may now have the option to cash out of those winnings before the game even finishes. And let me ask you this, is your fantasy season over? Your team might be cooked, but with Prize Picks, you don't have to wait until next year's draft. Prize Picks lets you play fantasy football every week. Pick your favorite players and win when they hit their projections every week, no draft required. 3-pick power play for some action this week when the Niners are on their bye. James Cook, more than 99.5 rushing yards against Cincinnati. Joe Burrow, more than 253.5 passing yards against Buffalo. That defense has stunk. And then Emeka Egbuka, more than 60.5 receiving yards. It's as easy as that. Get your picks in less than 60 seconds. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use the code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. All right, we continue to look at some targets for San Francisco in the upcoming 2026 NFL Draft, thanks to the Mel Kiper Big Board. And I'm going to crush this pronunciation. Vega Ioane. Vega Ioane is an interior offensive lineman out of Penn State who's an absolute mauler. I know that Penn State hasn't had a good season. I know their head coaching search has been an unmitigated disaster. Still without a head coach, and signing day was on Wednesday. But they have a bunch of NFL cats. 6'4", 328 for Ioane. 10 starts, 0 sacks allowed. Now, he's not a tackle. He's a guard. but he could play left guard for the Niners and be a plug-and-play player right from the jump. Giovanni drives defensive tackles off the ball, sustains his blocks well, said Mel Kiper. He can get to the second level and torque defenders out of the way, and he's incredibly agile at left guard for his size. Giovanni has 31 career starts and has given up only 2 sacks over that time, both in 2023. Ladies and gentlemen, it's 2025. This guy is a stud. Akeem Mesidor, defensive lineman out of Miami. So another lineman from Miami, 6'3", 265. So again, another player here who kind of fits what the Niners like from that defensive end spot. Not smaller guys who are speed rushers, guys who can win with power. This season for Mesidor, under Mario Cristobal, who's a hell of a recruiter, 46 tackles, 12 TFLs, 7 sacks, and 37 pressures. So he's been a highly productive player. What's the insight from Kiper? Mesidor started at West Virginia in 2020 and 2021, racking up 9.5 sacks, transferred to Miami before 2022, had 7 sacks in that first year. Injury limited him to 3 games in 2023, came back with 5.5 more sacks in 2024, looks great this year. The Canadian, makes his presence felt against both the run and the pass, and he shows good bend, closing burst, and power. When his initial move is thwarted, Mesidor never stops battling. He also brings some versatility with the ability to shade inside to defensive tackle and get pressure on the interior. Again, it just sounds like a Niner. So too does this player here. Keldrick Falk, defensive end out of Auburn. This guy is massive in size. From Alabama, stayed in Alabama, didn't play for the Crimson Tide though, played for Auburn. 6'6", 285 pounds from the defensive end spot. 27 tackles, 5 TFLs, 4 pass breakups, 26 pressures this season. Kiper loves him. If you could draw up the perfect NFL 4-3 defensive end, it would be Falk. He's what I call an LTPer. Someone who, LTP, looks the part. He can win with outside and inside moves, and he moves blockers with his super powerful hands. I see good overall instincts on tape too. Falk makes his presence felt against the run and the pass, and he is scheme versatile. Look at the wingspan in the background photo. Stupid athleticism. This is also a pretty good DB class if the Niners wanted to go that route. Mansour Delane, cornerback out of LSU, the number 22 player on Kiper's big board. That's what those numbers have stood for at the bottom of the screen, by the way. 6 foot, 190 pounds, Silver Spring, Maryland is where he's from. 43 tackles, 11 passes defended, and 2 picks. The Niners love college corners who have a history of making plays on the football. And that's what Delane does. Mel Kiper, I have been very impressed with the instincts and the savviness that he shows in coverage. True technician and has demonstrated excellent ball skills with 26 pass breakups and 8 picks over his 4-year career. He excels in both man and zone coverage and is 3.4 yards allowed per attempt on throws in his direction, 10th in the nation. He can make a lot of sense for the Niners as well. Amari Washington, defensive lineman out of Oregon. The Niners like Oregon defensive linemen, and they make it a point to go to a lot of those pro days because of the regional ties there. 6'3", 330 pounds from the interior defensive line, 30 tackles, 5 passes defended, 4 TFLs, 1 sack, 5 run stops this year. Washington putting it all together. He's powerful, he's quick and explosive, tough as nails. Teams are going to be interested in that combination, even if his game is still a little raw with no career starts before this season. Washington can clog up the middle against the run. He can power through with his bull rush to get interior pressure. We saw such a sack in Oregon's Week 7 game against Indiana. Very difficult to contain at the point of attack. He's still developing and could continue to rise up boards before April. Obviously, him being a little bit raw is a concern, but he pops on tape. Some draft talk for you right here on the San Francisco 49ers Report. Get you a significant other who can do it all. Get you a talk show host who can do it all. You can also find me on X, Instagram, and TikTok at Chase_Senior. Lyle, long time no talk. Lyle has been one of our best super chats in history. What is up, Lyle? Hope all is well. Chase, been a long time, Niner gang. Lyle has one of the coolest Niner man caves that you will ever see. We've shown it here on the show because he sent in some big-time super chats, and then he sent in another 10. Chase, is there any free agent defensive ends out there that the Niners could bring in? Glad to see you guys again. We'll get to that for our mailbag, Lyle, coming up here in just a moment. Jerome Papa, any relation to Gary or Greg Papa? $2 super chat. Hey, you. Hey, Jerome. Thanks for tuning into the show. We appreciate your support. All right. We are about to do a mailbag if we have enough questions. Do we have enough questions there, Chip?
Drum roll, please. Oh, yeah. We are good. Shout out to the real ones for getting these questions in.
Awesome.
Last chance.
Mailbag coming up. Last chance to get those questions in. If you send in a super chat, you will skip the line, and we will take those questions ASAP. But going to round out our live show with a mailbag. Segment number 4 coming up. And I always love chopping it up and talking Niners with all of you. So we'll get to our mailbag here. Thanks to everybody for sending in those super chats and using the hashtag 49ers. So with that, we'll shift gears to our mailbag, which begins right now. Hope you're all having a great weekend. This is the San Francisco 49ers Report. My name is Chase Sr. By the time that you're watching this, if you're waiting for a Niners game on Sunday, it ain't happening. San Francisco on the bye week, but the coverage does not stop. And we talk Niners every single day year-round here on this show. So today, we're taking questions from the faithful during the Niners bye week for a Q&A. Let's begin here, though. Let me ask you this. Do you love the Niners? Do you want elite Niners coverage every single day year-round? If you do, I want you to hit that sub button. And thanks to all of the real ones for getting us past 182,000 subscribers. Let's continue to grow the platform here on the program. Bill Kennedy gets us started with a $2 super chat. Believe it or not, I'm worried about the Tennessee Titans. So coming out of that aforementioned bye week, the Niners play host to the Tennessee Titans. They're already nearly 2 touchdown favorites in this game. And Bill, I understand why you might be a little bit concerned. Tennessee has played in some close games, but it's more like they've played in close halves against some contending teams this year. And then once that second half comes around, they just don't have the depth or the talent to stick with these teams. Due to the Niners coaching, due to the Niners coming off the bye, and considering the final 3 games that they have after Tennessee, you might be concerned as this could be a trap spot for San Francisco because they're looking ahead. They know at 9-4, with how close things are in the NFC, they can't look past Tennessee. Plus, with that bye week, like their whole focus has been on Tennessee, Tennessee, Tennessee. I think when you have that bye week, you get away, you heal up, mentally, physically, spiritually, you recharge a little bit, but then you focus on that opponent coming out of the bye because the Niners have that extra week. Lyle, longtime supporter of this show, good to hear from you. Chase, are there any free agent defensive ends out there that the Niners could bring in? Glad to see you guys again. Good to see you again as well. And I think the crop at defensive end is really thin. You think about one of the moves that the Niners made to bulk up their defensive line at defensive end and to enhance their pass rush, it was Cleveland Ferrell. They added Cleveland Ferrell off the scrap heap to the practice squad, and he has 4 sacks for the Niners. He's playing arguably the best ball of his career, and so that was one of the good players who was actually available. Let me also look at some currently available defensive ends who are available right now. And I'm telling you right now, the crop is not going to be great. Let me see here. Okay. You've got DeMarcus Walker, John Kaminsky, Jerry Hughes, Shaq Barrett, who's old, Carl Lawson, Janarius Robinson, Alex Barrett, who the Niners obviously know. That's really it, man. Not a lot of players out there who can make that big of a difference. That's why I wanted to see San Francisco, Lyle, make a move at the deadline. Ali, Are the Niners more incentivized to trade Mac Jones following the Brandon Ayuk saga and a possible need to draft a wide receiver in the early rounds? All right, let's tackle the Mac Jones portion of this first. It really comes down to which quarterbacks declare for the NFL draft. Will Dante Moore come out of Oregon? Will Ty Simpson declare for the NFL draft and leave Alabama? Those players could go back. So that then makes the quarterback class thinner, which then leads to the quarterback class not being as deep and teams needing to acquire a quarterback who's already in the NFL if they have quarterback question marks. You don't know if an Aaron Rodgers is going to retire or return to the Pittsburgh Steelers. And so I'm waiting to see did Dante Moore and Ty Simpson go back to school. Those are two of the top quarterbacks in this class, in addition to a guy like Fernando Mendoza out of Indiana, who might be the number one quarterback on a lot of people's big boards. But if those quarterbacks go back to school, the Niners might be able to get a second-round pick and a fourth for Mac Jones. And the team that I think makes a lot of sense, the Minnesota Vikings. They put all of their eggs in the J.J. McCarthy basket. They let Sam Darnold walk. J.J. McCarthy, I'm not going to say he looks like a bust, because we've seen Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield, Mac Jones save their careers. But right now, he is not ready. And so the Vikings roster is built to win and compete right now. So they might look at Mac Jones as a player who they really want and a player who would be a really good scheme fit. And for San Francisco, it comes down to one of two avenues. Do you value quarterback security, or do you want draft picks? If you want draft picks, get a second and a fourth for a Mac Jones. It helps you build this football team. But then, who's going to be the backup behind Brock Purdy, who got hurt in 2022, hurt in 2024, hurt in 2025? He's a smaller quarterback. You don't know how he's going to hold up. And if it weren't for Mac Jones this year, who went 5-3, throwing to Kendrick Bourne as his number one wideout, the Niners wouldn't be 9-4 right now. They wouldn't be in the playoff hunt. And next year, he's under contract for less than $5 million. Incredible value. So we'll see. It's going to be a very fascinating storyline this offseason. Great question right there. As far as Brandon Ayuk goes, I think he's played his last game as a Niner, and I think the Niners are going to release him. I don't think they have any trade value for him because no team is going to want to trade for a player, give up picks, have to pay that contract for a player who, personality-wise, they don't know who they're getting, and health-wise, they don't know who they're getting because I don't think he plays this season. So no team is going to know how he looks coming off an ACL, MCL, and meniscus tear. Whereas if the Niners release him, they can sign him, that other team, to an incentive-laden contract for much cheaper than $30 million per season. Come undone. Are we going to sign Laken Tomlinson? So I started off the show saying, hope everybody out there is having a great weekend. I'm recording the show during the live show on Thursday. But for the days where we're not in the studio, we do a couple of segments during the live show to play on the weekend for everybody who wants great content here on the show. So as of right now, Laken Tomlinson has not signed with a team, and he has not signed with the 49ers. I would think about making this move. And it's not like I would sign Laken Tomlinson to start for this team. No, I'd still go with Spencer Burford at left guard. I would sign Tomlinson as a depth piece and as a backup behind Spencer Burford because in case he got hurt, and Burford's played pretty well this year, he's given up, I think, 1 hit and 10 pressures all year long and 1 or 0 sacks. He's played well. But if he were to go down, what do you go back to? Connor Colby, the rookie. And to start the year, Connor Colby was getting a lot of time, and he wasn't good. And the Niners are 9-4 right now. You've got an opportunity in a wide-open NFC to do something fun this year. And so I know that Tomlinson hasn't played well with the Jets when he left the Niners after 2021 and got a bag. Hasn't played well with the Seahawks. Didn't play well for the Texans this year. And the Texans have a bad offensive line, and they still released him. But kind of like Cleveland Ferrell. Cleveland Ferrell, anywhere else he's gone, hasn't played well. With the Niners, he does play well. And Tomlinson, with Detroit prior to San Francisco, didn't play well. Jets, Seahawks, Texans, not playing well. With the Niners, he has played well. Knows the scheme. Niners need offensive guard depth. I don't want to go back to Connor Colby because I don't think he's ready yet. And he'd be a cheap veteran. So I would definitely think about making that move if I were the Niners as of this Thursday, December 4th. Let's get to our sponsor for our mailbag. Today's San Francisco 49ers report brought to you by Prize Picks. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use the code CLNS. Get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. Look, it's the holiday season. Best time of year for sports, bowl games, basketball matchups, playoff pushes. It's all happening at once. And while you and I are out here making decisions every day, what gifts to buy, what to eat, which game to watch, there is one place where it feels good to be right, and that place is Prize Picks. Join the millions of users. Sign up today. You can get your picks in less than 60 seconds. I know you all know ball. I want you to show me. Turn your takes into cash with Prize Picks. Available all across the country. And it makes game day so much more fun. Here's our 3-pick power play. James Cook, more on the rushing yards. Joe Burrow, more on the passing yards. And then Emeka Egbuka, more on the receiving yards. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use the code CLNS. Again, get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. Joji tuned in from Japan. Konnichiwa. Will Eric Kendricks play against the Tennessee Titans? I think that he will. Now, the Niners signed him going into that Cleveland game, and I wasn't sure. Shoot. Curtis Robinson had struggled a little bit. Congrats to Curtis Robinson, Walter Payton, Man of the Year nominee for the Niners. But against Carolina, targeted 3 times, gave up 3 catches, and was the lowest graded player for the Niners on defense. And I'm like, are the Niners going to start Eric Kendricks? A little bit rich for him to start shortly after signing. And so I like how the Niners have approached this, right? They signed him. He was able to see what the Niners did in game action against Cleveland. Then got that bye week, another week to learn the scheme. And then in the lead up to Tennessee, yet another week to prepare. So I think he's definitely going to play against the Tennessee Titans. I don't think you make a move for a guy like that who's been in the league for 10 years, who has 9 straight years of 100-plus tackles, and then you don't play him. I think that is the option for San Francisco the rest of the way. Johnny Royal, another loyal viewer of the show. Loyal. I would love to see more 2-back sets with Christian McCaffrey and Brian Robinson. I think Brian Robinson is severely underused. I agree, and Christian McCaffrey by far has the most touches in the NFL. And it's so funny how the Niners are like, we need to save Christian McCaffrey from Christian McCaffrey. He loves playing football. Kyle Shanahan says that all the time. It's like, Kyle, you are the head coach. You can decide to give him a rest and give Brian Robinson some more carries. When Brian Robinson has gotten carries, I think he's been really good. I would like to see the Niners bring him back if he doesn't get paid a lump sum from another team after this year, because Isaac Rendo can never stay healthy, and then Jordan James can be your RB3. But Christian McCaffrey, my gosh, thankfully he's been able to stay healthy, but the workload has been incredible for him as a receiver and running back this year. So I would like to see him take some time off, but he's also such a special player who impacts the game so much. Now, can he use him as a decoy and give some handoffs to Brian Robinson? I'd love to see more of that. But we haven't seen a lot of that. Plus, keep in mind, Niners like to go a lot of 2 tight end sets. They like to utilize Kyle Juszczyk a lot, and so that takes away from the opportunities to go Brian Robinson because you don't want to go too heavy with your personnel. Tony Two-Tone, is Christian Wilkins a free agent? No. Despite him dealing with all those injuries with Green Bay, he actually signed a contract extension with the Packers. I think it was worth like $15 million per year and probably very incentive-laden. Oh, shoot, Christian Watson. Yes, that's Christian Wilkins. My gosh, I haven't heard that name in a while. Christian Wilkins, the defensive tackle. Good call by Chip. Before I went on a tangent there, talking about the wrong player. Christian Wilkins is a free agent. Yes, he is. Good player coming out of Clemson. Really good player from Miami. Got that bag from the Raiders. It blew up in their faces. He didn't even last 2 years. And why he was let go by the Raiders, a couple of reasons. One of the big reasons, the Raiders wanted him to get another surgery on his foot. Christian Wilkins didn't want to get that other surgery on his foot. And so they had disagreements between their medical staff and Wilkins and his representation. The other thing with Wilkins was that he was doing some weird stuff in the locker room with teammates that was rubbing people the wrong way. Getting a little bit touchy-touchy. Now, we've got some sources here at Chat Sports, and we've learned some good information on that. That's about what I can say on that because it hasn't been proven true. But there are some locker room concerns with Christian Wilkins. That, plus the injury, plus him being 330 pounds dealing with foot injuries, not a guy I'd like to bring in. Impacts your culture. When he does what he's done, obviously that makes the rounds across the NFL. Players would be like turning their heads, especially for a cultural place that's so firm like the Niners locker room. And plus the injury concerns with all of the injury problems that the Niners have had. Can't do it. Doc Broadwater, could you do an offensive line draft? Who would you take and where? So already up on the channel for all of you to see, we took a look at some Niners draft targets based upon Mel Kiper's top 25 big board. And there are a couple of offensive linemen who we talked about on that show. Spencer Furneaux is one of them. The tackle out of Utah, 6'6", 308, 11 starts, no sacks allowed this year. And he's a player who can play right tackle and left tackle. If you want to go interior, Vega Giovanni is a really good player out of Penn State, 6'4", 328. He's a left guard. Niners don't have a future left guard right now. 10 starts, 0 sacks allowed. He's been excellent, really, ever since 2023. And so those are some offensive linemen who kind of come to mind for me as far as guys who I would love to see the Niners target. The 49er guy, is Jacob Cohn coming back to practice, and will he be playing against the Titans? So the expectation over the last few weeks was that coming out of the bye week, the Niners were going to open up his practice window. And it's unfortunate what's happened to him. He had a great spring and a really good mini camp, and then injured his hamstring right at the start of training camp, running routes against air. And every time he would try to come back, he kept re-injuring the hamstring. There were like 3 occasions where he re-injured his hammy. And that's now 2 years where the Niners have gotten nothing out of Jacob Cohn, who was a really good college player. Transferred to Arizona, increase in competition, balled out. Now he's smaller, but he's shifty, gadget guy, can take the top off of the defense. And I was looking forward to seeing a faster Niners offense with Jordan Watkins and Jacob Cohn, Ricky Pearsall. But the Niners have had so many injuries at that spot this year. Greg Smith, hi Chase. Any good wide receivers in the draft? My gosh, there are some excellent wide receivers in the draft. This is a very deep wide receiver class, especially in this first round. Jordan Tyson out of Arizona State, the Colorado transfer, 61 grabs, 711 yards, 8 touchdowns. He's 6'2", 200 pounds. Carnell Tate, even taller, 6'3", little lighter, 195. 44 catches for 793 yards and 8 tuds, averaging over 18 yards per catch. Mekhi Lemon, Nick Saban said he's the best player he's seen this year in college football. More of a slot guy, but reminds me a lot of Jackson Smith and Jigba, who's primarily a slot guy and is leading all wide receivers in receiving yards. 79 grabs this year for USC, 1,100 yards and 11 touchdowns. So those are only 3. A lot of good wide receivers, Greg. Wolf Godmack, do you think that Fred Warner may come back if we make it to the NFC Championship game and in the Super Bowl? Man, I'd be surprised. Like last week, he was doing some running on the underwater treadmill, which is obviously non-weight bearing. He just, I believe, shed the boot. And so the Super Bowl is in about 2 months. Now, you would probably have to keep him from playing in that game, and it's not like you'd run the risk of him, like, re-tearing something because it was a broken and dislocated ankle, but I would be highly surprised if he played in an NFC Championship game or in a Super Bowl. But we'll see. I wouldn't put anything past All-Pro Fred. He's been an Iron Man. Up until that injury, had missed 1 game in his career after he was drafted in 2018. Hey, this is why you subscribe to the channel. We're doing all types of content. Draft talk, in-season talk, postseason talk, after the season talk. We keep it humming here on the show. Hit that sub button. Good stuff, everybody. Thanks for tuning in today. Glad we had that good audience all throughout. Got up to $30 in super chats. Average view duration, fantastic. 4 segments down. Good stuff. So we'll next be live next week around this time, same place. And then we'll be live for that Niners-Titans watch party. For Chip, I'm Chase for the faithful. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for supporting. We'll see you soon.